Welcome to Tales of History, where we unravel the complex tapestry of our past. Today, we're plunging into one of the most catastrophic and consequential military campaigns in human history. From the gates of Moscow to the banks of the Volga, from the sweeping plains of Ukraine to the frozen streets of Leningrad, this is a tale of ambition, brutality, heroism, and sacrifice on a scale that's hard to comprehend. On June 22, 1941, as dawn breaks over Eastern Europe, the rumble of tanks and the roar of aircraft shatter the morning calm. Operation Barbarossa has begun. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union changed the course of World War II and shaped the world we live in today. So, fasten your seatbelts as we journey back to 1941, when the largest military operation in history was about to unfold. This is Operation Barbarossa. On June 22, 1941, the largest military operation in history begins as Nazi Germany launches its invasion of the Soviet Union. Codenamed Operation Barbarossa, this massive assault would change the course of World War II and ultimately seal the fate of the Third Reich. But why did Hitler embark on this perilous campaign? Was it merely his hatred for communism, or were there strategic considerations at play? The truth, as often in history, is complex. Hitler's decision was driven by a mix of ideology, strategy, and perhaps even a touch of megalomania. Firstly, Hitler's virulent anti-communism and racist views towards Slavic peoples were undoubtedly major factors. In his worldview, the Soviet Union represented both a political and racial enemy. However, there were also strategic considerations. The vast resources of the Soviet Union, particularly the oil fields near the Caucasus and Stalingrad, were tantalizing prizes. Hitler believed that controlling these resources would make Germany invincible. Interestingly, some historians argue that Hitler saw the invasion as a preemptive strike. He believed that Stalin was planning to attack Germany and wanted to strike first. This theory, known as the icebreaker hypothesis, remains controversial among scholars. As for Stalingrad, while its name might have made it a symbolic target, its strategic location on the Volga River was the primary reason for its importance. Hitler's obsession with the city grew as the battle dragged on, but it wasn't the initial motivating factor for the invasion. The invasion began at 3:15 a.m. on June 22, 1941. Over 3 million Axis soldiers, 3,000 tanks, and 2,700 aircraft surged across an 1,800-mile front. The Soviet forces, caught by surprise despite numerous warnings, were quickly overwhelmed. In the first few months, the German blitzkrieg seemed unstoppable. They advanced hundreds of miles, capturing key cities and destroying or capturing entire Soviet armies. Here's a little-known fact. The Germans were so confident of a quick victory that many soldiers packed summer uniforms and sunscreen, expecting to be in Moscow before winter. This overconfidence would prove fatal. By September, German forces had reached the outskirts of Leningrad in the north and taken Smolensk on the road to Moscow. In the south, they had overrun Ukraine and were approaching the vital Caucasus region. However, the Soviets refused to collapse. As German supply lines stretched thin and the brutal Russian winter set in, the advance began to slow. Stalin, recovering from his initial shock, rallied his people with his famous Brothers and Sisters speech on July 3, 1941. He invoked Russian patriotism and the need to defend the motherland, marking a shift from communist ideology to nationalist sentiment. He ordered a scorched earth policy, denying the invaders resources as the Soviets retreated. Crucially, Stalin also began relocating Soviet industries east of the Ural Mountains out of German reach. This Herculean effort would prove vital in sustaining the Soviet war effort. The tide began to turn in December 1941. The Germans, now at the gates of Moscow, faced a grim reality. The infamous Russian winter, which had caught Napoleon's Grande Armée unprepared over a century earlier, was beginning to set in. As temperatures plummeted to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, the ill-equipped German army ground to a halt outside Moscow. On December 5th, General Georgy Zhukov launched a massive counteroffensive. Fresh Siberian divisions, well-equipped for winter warfare, struck the German lines. For the first time in the war, the Wehrmacht was forced into a major retreat. This Moscow counteroffensive shattered the myth of German invincibility. It also bought the Soviets crucial time to further mobilize their vast resources for the struggles ahead. Here's another fascinating detail. The Soviets employed maskirovka, or military deception, on a grand scale. They created entire dummy armies with inflatable tanks and false radio transmissions, keeping the Germans guessing about their true strength and intentions. Over the next 2 years, a series of titanic battles unfolded like Stalingrad, Kursk, and many others. Slowly but surely, the Soviets pushed the invaders back, aided by the increasing flow of supplies from their Western allies. By 1944, Soviet forces had expelled the Germans from their territory and were advancing into Eastern Europe, setting the stage for the final act of World War II in Europe. Operation Barbarossa, Hitler's great gamble, had failed catastrophically. The failure of Operation Barbarossa marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. It transformed what Hitler had envisioned as a rapid conquest into a prolonged war of attrition, which was a war that Germany, despite its early victories, was ultimately unable to win. But the cost was staggering. Over 5 million Axis soldiers died. 10 million Soviet soldiers died. Civilian casualties were even higher, with an estimated 14 million Soviet citizens perishing. What can we learn from this cataclysmic event? Firstly, it demonstrates the dangers of ideological blindness. Hitler's racist beliefs led him to fatally underestimate the Soviet people's resilience and resources. Secondly, it highlights the importance of logistics in warfare. The Germans' failure to prepare for a long campaign in harsh conditions doomed their efforts. Lastly, it shows the power of national unity in the face of existential threats. Despite the brutality of Stalin's regime, the Soviet people rallied to defend their homeland. Operation Barbarossa changed the course of history. It ensured the defeat of Nazi Germany, set the stage for the Cold War, and reshaped the map of Europe for generations to come. And there you have it, the story of Operation Barbarossa, a turning point in World War II and world history. If you enjoyed this journey through time, please don't forget to like this video and share it with fellow history enthusiasts. It really helps our channel grow and allows us to keep bringing you these fascinating tales from the past. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. You'll be the first to know when we upload our next historical adventure. Do you have any suggestions for future episodes? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring history.